Morning everyone, welcome back. So before I carry on reading the book, I just wanted to do a recap over what we've read so far in the book. Chapter 1 was about Phoenician engineering. They were combining the arts of nature and construction together, which is quite fascinating compared to what we do nowadays really, if you look at it. They were using timber to ship goods to the furthest lands on Earth, which could have been the Southlands, or just anywhere, the opposite continents. Building huge quays and moles. Moles are basically harbour gates, which were like islands that could float and move into and out of place to stop ships entering the quay. Alexander the Great was using engines and propellers and stuff like that. He built batteries with ships to batter down fort walls. He used a tall tower on a boat and climbed over a plank of wood to cross a fort wall. This was all 1250 years BC roughly. Glass, metals, timber carving, merchants, navigators, planters of colonies all over 1,000 years ago. There was part of the story talking about how they carried away 4.5 million pounds of silver in weight. That must have been quite a lot. But the stuff that they were doing then, just after the flood, was quite magnificent considering what we're taught to believe what people were doing back then. And so far in chapter 2, the Egyptian engineering, we've learned that they were carving rivers and canals, artificially made, and they were maintained annually. Excuse me. Raising ground levels for towns on purpose. Building building long ships for conquest. This was like 600 years BC. Making sepulchres and platforms and ramps for pyramids, and building pyramids as well. The Great Pyramid carved apparently partly out of rock that was existing there, and then partly out of blockwork. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff we've got up to so far. And what I've noticed is there's a lot of pyramids over there back then that aren't there now. But anyway, carrying on with the reading, here we go. The entrance to this inclined passage, which was at the height of 13 feet above the level of the base, was formed by a square hole, or rather by the leaving out of the one large stone. The joints of the masonry around it were very imperfect, and many of them seemed to have been disturbed, as if injured by attempts to force an opening at some time or other. The anteroom, which occurs in the lower passage, at 104 feet from the entrance, is peculiar, for the contrivances which are introduced to prevent anyone from proceeding beyond it. Where the three portcullises are placed across from east to west, the passage is 13 feet 6 inches in length, after which the passage proceeds to the large apartment in nearly a horizontal line. Immediately above, in the section of the portion of the pyramid, may be seen another passage, nearly horizontal as in its first direction, and afterwards inclining upwards. It, however, terminates at a part of the pyramid where the artificial construction commences, which seems to indicate that it never had any communication with the exterior. The other end of the passage, where it is attached to the large apartment, is very much cut by ropes, the stone indicating by the grooves worn in it. Hoisting had been much practised here. Probably the stones from the excavations may have been drawn out by means of this passage, and afterwards used in the upper constructions, which now effectually close the other end. The centre of the pyramid is immediately over the cross, marked on the plan of the large apartments. At the bottom of the southern side of the passage, which leads from the sepulchre chamber, a recess has been formed, on the opposite side of which is a flight of 7 steps, which conducted into the southern end of the room, which had its floor 3 feet below the level of the passage. This room was a rectangular form, but was not set out square with a great chamber. It contained 4 niches or compartments on the eastern side and 2 on the northern. The large apartment shown in the plan, and the line at the right angles with the entrances passages, had a flat ceiling, a very large and massive stone, and was divided in its length by 2 projections of pilasters, one of which was attached to each side, and beyond was the recess of sepulchre chamber, in which the sarcophagus was found. The hole in front conducts below. The original quantity of masonry in this pyramid has been estimated at over 9 million cubic feet, or 700,000 tons, and the extent of this base is 2 acres, 3 rods and 21 poles. The discovery of the sarcophagus settles the question relative to the destination of the pyramids. In the chamber which contained it is given by figure 21 and is indicated in the plan, figure 16, where the recess is shown beyond the 2 pilasters. All the ancient writers bear testimony to the extreme anxiety of the Egyptians, in common with other nations, to preserve their remains until the period unanimously anticipated, when their bodies shall be resurrected. Indeed, the Egyptians, according to Diodorus Siculus, set little value on the shortness of his present life, but put a high esteem upon the name and reputation of a virtuous life after death. And they called the houses of the living inns, because they sojourned there for a short time, but the sepulchres of the dead they denominated lasting habitations, as in them they were to abide for infinite generations. For this reason they did not bestow much care on the building of their houses, but beautified the sepulchres, and left nothing undone that could not be thought of. When a king died, there was a universal mourning and rending of garments. Temples were shut up, and feasts and solemnities stayed for the space of 72 days, casting dust upon their heads, and girding themselves under the breasts with linen girdles. When these and other observances had been performed, all things were then prepared in a stately manner for a funeral. And on the last day, the coffin with the body enclosed was brought to the entrances of the final sepulchre, where, according to the laws of Egypt, all the actions of the individual during the life were rehearsed, and anyone had free liberty to expatiate on his faults. The priests then, with many thousands of people, amidst profound silence, assisted in depositioning the coffin and the sarcophagus prepared to receive it, which was adorned with painting. It is not improbable that the hole in the pavement in front of the sarcophagus communicated with the channel which carried off with the water brought down by the inclined passage, which any filter through the walls or rocks which it was connected. When Belzoni advanced some distance along the passage which had led to the apartment containing the splendid sarcophagus in the museum of Sir John Soane, he found a well 30 feet in depth and 14 feet by 12 feet 3 inches, which was contrived for the purpose of receiving rainwater and keeping the air of the chamber dry. Heavy rain falls at Thebes occasionally, once every 4 or 5 years, when it may enter through the porous stone in sufficient quantity to wash down the rubbish constantly found deposited within these passages or chambers. Fourth pyramid. Its square base is only 102 feet 6 inches long on the side. Its total height is 69 feet 6 inches. It is constructed with large blocks of stone, but it is doubtful whether its exterior was ever completed. The sepulchre chamber measures 19 feet 2 inches from the north to south, its breadth 8 feet 9 inches, and its height 10 feet 4 inches. The entrance to this pyramid is by a square aperture. Fifth pyramid was 145 feet 9 inches on the other side at the base, and its original perpendicular height was 93 feet 3 inches. Its chamber from east to west was 25 feet 6 inches, its breadth 10 feet 5 inches, and its height 8 feet 9 inches. Its entrance is by a descent. Sixth pyramid is at the base of 102 feet 6 inches, had a total height of 69 feet 6 inches. It contained besides its passages an anteroom and sepulchre chamber, which was length from north to south 26 feet in its breadth, 11 feet 4 inches, and in its height 24 feet. The entrance here is by descent also. The seventh pyramid has its passage lined with masonry and a sepulchral chamber with highly wrought square slabs of stone. Its dimensions were from east to west 11 feet 8 inches and from north to south 9 feet 9 inches. Its length from one side of its square base was 172 feet 6 inches, its perpendicular height 111 feet, its inclined height by 140 feet, and its angle of its side 52 degrees 10 minutes. When the enterprise in Belzoni was in Egypt, he attempted to open most of the pyramids and had considerable difficulty in finding out the entrance, which was not always in the centre or equal distance from the angles. Much time was spent in vain upon the pyramid in question, and it is to Mr. Perrin, as to his patron, that we are indebted for the means of describing the entrance shown above. The stones in the pyramid, like the others, were laid at distinct courses, diminishing successively in size as they approached the top. Each course was so much within the other below that it formed a sort of stair previous to the cores and stones being laid upon the outside, which rendered the work completed. These steps served for the placing of the machines mentioned in Herodotus, where the stones were successively raised step by step and embedded in their proper places, after which the coating or casing recommenced at the top. The work was finished by progressing downwards. At least it was reported by the father of history. The eighth pyramid had a square base at the side of which was 172 feet 6 inches in length, a perpendicular height of 111 feet, an inclined height of 140 feet, and an angle of its side was 52 degrees 10 minutes. The sepulchral chamber was in length from east to west, 12 feet 9 inches, and its breadth 10 feet 3 inches. Its entrance is very much broken. The ninth pyramid measured on each side of its base 160 feet. Its perpendicular height was 101 feet 9 inches, and its inclined height was 130 feet 6 inches. The angle at the sides formed was 52 degrees 10 minutes. Like the others, it had passages on any room and a sepulchral chamber, which was in length 12 feet 3 inches, in breadth from north to south 3 feet 6 inches, and in height 8 feet 6 inches. The entrance was very much broken. It appears to have been greatly disturbed. It was by descent, like most of the others, the stones which was formed of the enormous dimensions and laid with great care, that which served as a lintel against many tons, and must have required the aid of a powerful lever to lift this into place. By means of an inclined plane, these large blocks were rolled from their quarries after the machine was mentioned Herodotus was made use of. These pyramids astonish us by the enormous manual labour bestowed upon them. Herodotus describes hundreds of thousands of persons as employed for their construction, who were changed every 3 months. Years were consumed in the preparation of the material. Millions sterling were expended in the purchase of food whilst they were in progress, and according to some inscriptions remaining, this food consisted of leeks, garlic, onions, and other vegetable diet. In the early ages of this world, rapidly increasing population required support before means could be found to employ it beneficially. And the sovereigns of Egypt might have been induced to construct these splendid tombs to afford occupation unto their subjects. Campbell's tomb, as it is now called, is here given an account of an arch which contains, and which is asserted was known at the time of the first Osiris, who resigned when Joseph was in Egypt. In the ground plan, the chamber AA is 30 feet 6 inches from east to west. 26 feet 3 inches in the other direction. Depth of this excavation is 53 feet 6 inches. The part lettered B is the arched tomb, and C is the trench cut around, 5 feet 4 inches in width, but is not an equal distance from the centre excavation on all sides. It forms a square measuring on the outside about 57 feet 3 inches. This trench is cut in a depth of 73 feet, which are little more than 15 feet 6 inches below the surface of the inundation in 1838. On a bed of sand 2 feet 6 inches in thickness, slabs of stone about 5 feet in length were laid flat, and upon them were carried a few courses with smaller stones. In the centre was placed a large block, scooped out to receive the sarcophagus, which contained the body over this. B, which was another large stone placed covering its hull, and in the lower edge of the inscription or row of hieroglyphics. This sarcophagus of black basalt is now in the British Museum. At the entrance by the pit and the roof of the chamber was formed of 4 stones, and 2 outer being set edgeways and inclined upwards, having the other 2 others placed upon them, forming as it were the first rudiments of an arch. Over these were turned an arch, and a radius of which was 6 feet 2 inches, and the span 11 feet, which was little less than that of the semicircle. It is composed of 4 courses, 3 feet 10 inches thick. Stones are described to have 4 feet long, 15 inches in breadth. At the back of the joints were packed with chips, and the whole had been grouted with fluid mortar. The antiquity of the arch is said by Mr. Wilkinson in his Egypt and Thebes to be traced to the time of Amenoph I, who reigned 1540 years before Christ, and arches of stone and brick are met with in several tombs of very early date. He also observes that if the chambers of the brick pyramids at Memphis, erected by the successor of the sons of Cheops, were vaulted as he supposes, the antiquity of the arch might be carried back nearly 700 years prior to the reign of Amenoph, which is 2020 years before our era. When blocks of stone cut like truncated wedges are so placed, they support each other by their mutual pressure. They constitute an arch in our acceptation of the term, and it does not seem improbable that such a system of construction could result from the use of bricks in a country where timber was not readily obtained to serve as lintels or discharging pieces. Brick arches seemed first upon record here in the opening is gathered by all 3 stones set in ordinary Egyptian manner, and the arch in question turned over them bears no weight, but acts simply as a covering, where it is no indicator of abandonment necessarily to render the work solid or durable. Mr. Wilkinson, who observes that the arches or similar constructions in brick were in use 3,370 years ago, as the name of Amenoph is preserved in the stucco which coats the interior of the vaulted tomb at Thebes. The stone arch of Saqqara still exists at the time of the second Samniticus, who reigned about 600 years before our era, and from its peculiar construction there is little doubt that the Egyptians had been long accustomed to the erection of some vaults. The want of timber in the country would render such construction almost necessary. In the time of the first Aristarchus, who was contemporary with Joseph, the arch was made use of in the tombs of Beni Hassan. In Egypt, then we must acknowledge, as we find the first rudiments of the arch, and from that country it was brought into Europe. The principle of the arch, with all its voussoirs radiating to a common centre, certainly shown to exist in many buildings which modern travellers had surveyed in Egypt. The length of the tomb is 14 feet 9 inches, the breadth is 10 feet 5 inches, height to the spring of the arch is 19 feet 4 inches, and from the spring into the top of the arch is 7 feet 8 inches. The tube of the earthenware is a stone stopper had been formed in the opening between the two apartments, and above it another with a similar stopper at the arch for the purposes of ventilation. The pyramids in the Middle and Lower Egypt are 39 in number. They are situated on the western side of the river, the desert hills which form the western boundary of the Nile. They are comprised of 29 degrees 16 minutes 56 seconds and 30 degrees 2 minutes 30 seconds north latitude, or a space equal to about 53 English miles. Pyramid Abu Roash is situated 5 miles to the northwest of those in Giza. The base, which is all that remains, is 320 feet square. The mass formed of hard chalk, of which the mountain is composed, had been cut into the form. This was the case at hard stone, none of which remains. There is an inclined entrance passage in the apartment lying west of the cut of the solid chalk, and lined with the fine calcareous stone from the Torah quarries. The passage inclines at an angle of 22 degrees 35 minutes and about 160 feet in length. The chamber is 40 feet by 15, above which is apparently another. The level space around the pyramid is about 510 feet above the plain. The northern side has been sloped away and inclined causeway of 4,950 feet in length and 30 in breadth. It leads to the plain below. This causeway is some parts nearly 40 feet in height and walled with masonry. Pyramid Zanigat Arabam is a base 300 feet in square, and its height remains 61 feet above the rock. The material which is built is hard limestone, in which are many fossil shells. The blocks were not squared, nor were they laid in regular stones, clay or loam being used instead of mortar. Pyramid of Rija. About 3/4 of a mile northwest from Abu Sar, its base measures 123 feet 4 inches square. This pyramid had 2 inclinations given to it. The lower was the angle of 75 degrees 20 minutes, and the upper covered with calcareous stone at an angle of 52 degrees. Pyramids of Abu Suar are 3 in number, about 7 miles SSE of those at Giza, and 3 miles north-northeast of Saqqara. The material with which they are built is the stone found upon the spot laid in the Nile, earth instead of mortar. The exterior casing of all of them has been removed. The interior chambers and passages are similar to the others. The northern pyramid was originally 257 feet square, and its perpendicular height 162 feet 9 inches, the angle of the causing being 51 degrees 42 minutes 35 seconds. The passage descended at an angle of 27 degrees 5 minutes 14 feet and went horizontally at a distance of 27 feet from the inclined plane. It had been closed by a granite portcullis 1 foot 3 inches in thickness. The distance from the present entrance to the apartment was in length 71 feet 4 inches. The apartment measured from north to south 11 feet 8 inches. The height of the sides was 9 feet 4 inches, and the centre was 12 feet 6 inches. The apartment was in the centre of the pyramid, and there had been 3 tiers of roof blocks, the footings of the upper rows being carried beyond those of the lower, in order that the pressure would be more equally distributed. These roof blocks were 35 feet in length, 12 feet thick and 9 feet wide. The middle pyramid had for each side of its square base 274 feet, and its perpendicular height was 171 feet 4 inches. Here was also an inclined passage which had portcullis, beyond which a horizontal passage extended 63 feet in length, 5 feet 10 inches in height, and 5 feet 1 inch in width. The width of the apartment at the end was 14 feet, the roof of which had been formed of 3 tiers of blocks, 48 feet 6 inches in length. Great Pyramid, which was on steps covered with flat stones, the space between these and the pyramidal casing being filled with rubble. The lower parts of the casing, as well as the portions of the entrance passage, were of granite. The mortar in general was formed of Nile earth, with a small proportion lime. Its base originally measured 359 feet 9 inches, and perpendicular height 227 feet 10 inches. The entrance passage was inclined 26 degrees 3 minutes, and there was continued horizontally. It was constructed of large blocks of Torah stone, with a roof of inclined stones. The apartment was covered with a pointed roof of 3 courses of blocks 45 feet in length. A small pyramid originally measured its base at 75 feet 5 inches on its side. The apartment within was its length from east to west 12 feet 2 inches, and from north to south 10 feet 6 inches, and from height 8 feet 7 inches. In the southeastern corner was a recess 5 feet 1 inch in breadth, and 3 feet 5 inches in depth. The horizontal passage was in length 14 feet, and its height 8 feet 7 inches, and in breadth 2 feet 5 inches. The inclined passage was 27 feet in length and 2 feet 10 inches in breadth, the angle 22 degrees 10 minutes. Pyramids of Saqqara, the first, much being decayed, a mass of ruins. Its present base measures on each side 210 feet, and its height 59, the platform at the top being about 50 feet square. Second pyramid was built with large unsquared stones. The length of the side of the original base is 231 feet 3 inches, its height 146 feet 6 inches. The angle of the inclined passage 26 degrees 35 minutes, and the length 78 feet 9 inches. The horizontal passage to the portcullis is in length 31 feet 3 inches. The thickness of the portcullis is 2 feet 3 inches, and from thence the chamber 26 feet 9 inches, making the total length 60 feet 3 inches. Its width is 4 feet 2 inches, and its height 6 feet 1 inch. The 2 principal apartments have pointed roofs, which are lined with the calcareous stone. The outer apartment in length from east to west is 13 feet 7 inches, in breadth from north to south 10 feet 3 inches. The height at the side is 10 feet 5 inches, and at the centre 14 feet 2 inches. The inner apartment is in length from east to west 25 feet 7 inches, and from breadth from north to south 10 feet 3 inches. The rooms at the side, one end which runs from east to west, is 18 feet in length and 8 feet in width. Another from north to south, and its length 34 feet in width, 7 feet 3 inches. So, video's going to cut out any time now, so that'll probably be about the end of the reading for this part. But before I finish, I just wanted to say that I think that they used to be like batteries, not tombs, and there was water running under them. I think somewhere in South America some pyramids have been discovered, and they've got these caves that run for a couple of kilometres underground to them, and the locals around there are saying that in older times, when people were ill, they would walk through these passages towards the pyramid, and they would pretty much be healed. And what was happening is there was these massive odd-shaped looking rocks that were in these open like room areas throughout the caverns and the passages, and they x-rayed these rocks a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and there was some sort of gem or stone inside the rocks. So it was an artificial rock with a pure stone put inside it, and they also found that there was streams of water running directly underneath it. And what might have been happening is, as the water was streaming underneath the rock, it was causing the vibrations of the rock and it was sending them frequencies to the stone inside the giant odd stone in the room. So then it was emitting frequencies from the gem inside the diamond, whatever type of good stone it was that was inside the rock. So as people were walking past it, it was just it was clearing their headaches, sorting out their mental issues, whatever. But as full of information this is, it does talk about a lot of people building them, and I do think a lot of these were built by the Egyptians, but I don't think Giza was. I think Giza might have been there before them, and the Egyptians were copying in a way. And like I say, I don't know, I wasn't there. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I'll get part 3 out as soon as I can. Thanks for listening. God bless.